One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.
All right, welcome to yet another episode of One Guy's Seen It, the only podcast where one guy has seen the movie, the other guy has not seen the movie, and the first guy is going to try to convince the second guy to see the movie, and if he succeeds, they'll take a break, watch the movie, come back, nerd out about the movie, and decide how many beers you need to enjoy the movie, all while getting progressively more inebriated, because that is what they choose to do with their sentience. But without any further ado, rigmarole, hoopla, or ballyhoo, let's get into it. Sumner, give me the skinny.
Well, I got something I want to tell you. I was saving it for the podcast, but
Okay.
The Oscar nominations just got released today.
Really?
They did, and there's pretty good Oscar lists. Like the pictures, Best Picture nominees are kind of all over the place. Got a lot of different films I've never even heard of before, but Oppenheimer has, swept a lot of the nominations, so it's nominated for pretty much everything, I feel like. But do you know what nomination it got that I wanted to tell you about so badly?
Yeah, fill me in.
Best sound. And it's not sound mixing or design anymore, which is weird, but it's just sound in general. So
Best fart
best
noises.
Yeah.
Best nuclear bomb fart noises.
Which, out of all the films that could have been, I was the most surprised because that's the one it's gotten the most shit for online. But yeah, got nominated for Best Sound today.
And you know what sucks? If I rewatched it, because I think it's on Peacock, by the way, if you want to finally give it a spin.
Is it on Peacock? Oh,
yeah, I just saw it on Peacock. Yeah, because movies of the year get added to Peacock. Anyways, I'm convinced that if I rewatch it, I'm not going to be as mad at it, but I also refuse to rewatch it because I have to stick to my opinion. I have to be an immovable stone.
Well, you can have subtitles now, which make it probably infinitely more watchable.
Yeah, see, the thing is, though, like, the subtitles won't even help because it'll be too fast. You won't even see anything on screen because you'll be reading nonstop.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But thank you for that incredibly exciting information.
Yeah. So I'm like, I want to go back and watch a bunch of the stuff I didn't see up to this point. But I'm pretty sure I know that Oppenheimer is going to win Best Picture. I'm pretty positive of it.
You know what deserves to win Best Picture is Godzilla -1, which was the greatest movie of the year, hands down. Not even close. And I've seen like 2 movies this year.
It did get nominated for Best Sound, I think, also. So
what?
It might there's your matchup. Yeah. And visual effects, I think, too.
It got nominated for Best Godzilla Noises.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the good Godzilla noises are pretty cool.
They are pretty cool. If you haven't seen it, you really need to. It's badass.
I know. Well, I told you they were showing it here, but with no English subtitles, it's all in Japanese, so couldn't go watch it.
That would be an issue. Although honestly, you would still probably be entertained.
Probably, yeah. I've heard it's a great movie. But yeah, it's a fun day for film.
Yeah,
So-
I don't even know Oscar, but that's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. He's a big deal over there in Hollywood land.
Yeah. So were there any snubs for the nominations that you felt, or?
There were probably a couple. Well, to be fair, I haven't watched too many new movies. I've stuck to the basics. So what I saw, I was pretty happy with. I think, and they're pretty safe picks. So I feel like there's probably more deserving stuff out there that could have got nominated. But that's like. Pretentious film asshole and me talking. It seemed fine. It seemed like a good list of movies out there.
Well, cool.
You got Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, The Holdovers, which is really good. With Paul Giamatti, who I think is going to win Best Actor for the first time ever, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, The Holdovers. I saw an ad. That's available somewhere to stream. We almost watched it the other day. It looks awesome.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, we watched it here. I think when it was like still like in, that like pre-release where it was like $20 to rent, but it was Christmas and I really wanted to watch it, so we just watched it. And yeah, it's really great. I loved it.
Nice. Well, that's exciting news.
I was planning on doing it for One Guy's Seen It, but if you watch it beforehand, I won't be mad either.
No. If you want to do One Guy's Seen It, I would love to. I'll hold off.
You'll hold over on that?
I will hold over. I will be one of the holdovers.
Yeah, it's super fun. I don't know. Yeah, if you love Paul Giamatti, which I think you do, I think we're both fans of his. It's
Man,
really
so
good.
you're telling me that Dumb Money didn't get nominated for anything?
Actually, I would have liked this. I haven't seen it yet, but it just came on Netflix, and I really want to watch it.
Yeah, man. I late night watched it the other night. I was keeping up with the whole Jamie saga while it was happening, and I wanted to see how they movie fight it, and got a little America Ferrera in there.
She got nominated for something else.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I was really surprised to see her name because I hadn't seen it in a while. But I want to say it was like Best Supporting Actress. I don't know what for, but she was in something.
Yeah, dude. So the movie's good. Paul, what's his face is? I can't remember. Never remember his last name.
Dano. Paul Dano.
Dano. Thank you. Yeah, I love him. I just want to be his friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. Yeah,
but,
Andy and I love watching Paul Dano movies.
Yeah, There Will Be Blood is probably his peak. But
I tortured her the other night and made her watch There Will Be Blood again, which is really fun.
I love that that's torture.
Yeah, which I get. I've seen it a bunch, but yeah, it's it's a great movie, but I get the disconnect with that.
Yeah, but you never know with Andy. She's got very particular tastes.
I mean, she really likes it. She's just like, she has a thing with like dark movies where she kind of just wants to enjoy the process of watching something. She's more
I
of a
get
feel
that.
good kind of.
I get that.
Which is good too.
Yeah, the point of my story was that I watched this movie late just to watch something to fall asleep to, and got so into it that I ended up on this YouTube rabbit hole of investor advice, and it was investment advice. I didn't realize how many YouTubers there are out there, like ex-financial analyst YouTubers that just like make these badass daily videos about what companies you should and shouldn't be investing in, and like just like
right.
what a time to be alive. You can literally do anything. You can learn how to do anything on YouTube. Like obviously you don't, I'm a disclaimer, I'm not making any financial advice to anyone for any reason whatsoever.
Right.
But everybody should get a financial advisor if they're going to start investing, if they can afford it. But I went down this fucking rabbit hole of different AI companies that people think are really good bets right now. Mm-hmm. And it's like obviously they're the big ones. There's like the Meta and Tesla, and Nvidia had a massive boom at the end of last year. And it's funny too because Nvidia is like more, I guess, commonly known as like a graphics card maker. But they apparently are building a lot of the chipsets for AI stuff, and they it seems like they're probably going to be one of the top players in manufacturing shit that AI is going to run on. But it's like a lot of the companies that people are talking about are sort of off the radar companies that are making technology that will use AI in the back end at like a large scale manufacturing wise for different companies and whatever. But just that the shit's not going away. Like over the next 10 years, it's like all these companies want is ways to do things cheaper and in ways that take less time. And AI is already solving a lot of those problems. And and it's just crazy. It's like people are calling it, and it's whatever. Like it's just the fucking internet. I watched a few videos on the internet, but like people are saying this is probably the closest thing we'll ever get to an internet boom again. and there
interesting.
probably won't be anything like it again. And so investing now is a good plan. The problem is there's so many new emerging technologies and new companies that are trying to do different things with AI that there's no way to know what's going to take off and what's not. So like some are a bigger risk than others, but it's exciting times. And I've been wanting to start investing. And anyway, that movie was just a fucking like a lighter under my ass to be like, okay, I want to make lots of money.
I'm down to make money. Yeah, it's so funny too because like that was one of those things. Like I remember that happening like a year or two ago, so it's like really fresh in my memory. So I was like, I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm really excited to watch this. I'm just curious what the whole story is.
Yeah, and it's really bizarre too because they're really timely with like the pop culture and social things that were going on at the time because this was like 2020, right? So like fucking Kendrick's record was the hottest thing on the planet. So like everybody's singing, you know, Be Humble or Damn or whatever the fuck the name of that song is like the whole time.
I think the album was Damn, yeah.
The album was Damn, yeah. Is that I can't remember the name of that song. It's
Be Humble. Yeah, I think it's
just Humble.
No, I think it's shit. I'm not very familiar with Kendrick Lamar, but I think it's
everybody
Damn.
gets mad at me when I tell them I haven't listened to that whole record.
I've heard To Pimp a Butterfly is like one of the greatest albums of all time, and I still haven't listened to it.
Yeah,
the one he did before
anyway.
Damn, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which I've heard it's amazing, yeah, and I listened to a little bit, but I haven't listened to the whole thing, so.
Nice. Well, yeah, there's a lot of, it's weird. It's like, I can't remember the last time I saw a movie that had a bunch of pop culture references from like just a couple of years ago, and there's something really cringy about it that I can't explain.
No, I'm with you, yeah.
Like, I don't want to go back there.
Like, it's not intentional to like the movie, like they're capturing like the time period, but like hearing it and remembering what it was like to live through it, like it just like cringes you out.
Yeah, man, it's weird.
Yeah, it's not really the fault of the movie either, because I think they're trying to capture a time and a place really well, but then again, I haven't seen it, so I don't know how they utilize it, so maybe it is kind of cringy.
Yeah, check it out. It's a fun little movie film, but it's not what we're watching today. What are we watching today?
Well, we're going back to the 1970s today.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'm giving you another classic, one that I feel pretty confident in calling a classic. I think most people consider it like an all-time classic, so I'm throwing it at you today. It came out in 1975. The director is Milos Forman, who directed Amadeus and a bunch of other stuff. He's a really prolific he's one of my favorite directors. He's really precise, but I'm trying to think of a way to tell you this so where you don't get it right away, but I don't know if I'll give you the stars first and then I'll give you the plot, because I think you'll probably get what I'm going for here.
Okay.
So it stars, okay, I won't give you the lead actor, make it a little more challenging. So stars Louise Fletcher, Brad Dourif, Danny DeVito, and Christopher Lloyd are all supporting characters in the movie.
Yeah, not a fucking clue.
Okay. Then I'll give you the plot, and then I'll give you the star, and then if you can't figure it out, I'll tell you what it is.
Okay, sounds good.
In the fall of 1963, this is the IMDb synopsis, but a Korean War veteran and criminal pleads insanity and is admitted to a mental institution. This is the IMDb plot synopsis.
Whoa, this sounds cool.
Yeah, no idea?
No fucking idea.
So the star is Jack Nicholson, is the lead actor.
Knack Jickelson.
Knack Jickelson.
Is this One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
It is, yeah.
Yes.
I knew you'd get it if I said his name.
Dude, I've somehow managed to live my entire life without seeing this. I'm so pumped that I now have a reason to.
Yeah, this is one of I think this is one of Andy's favorite movies. She's read the book a bunch. I think it's one of her favorite books. But yeah, it's a great movie. I think it's one that I remember watching as a kid, and I was probably like 16, so I didn't really get everything that was in it, but I think when I rewatched it again when I was like 21 or 22, I really enjoyed it a lot, and I was able to really kind of, and it's not that complicated, but like you're able to like grasp a lot of like the more subtle mental health things that are going on in the movie, and I don't know, it's really it's ahead of its time, as I say. I don't know, it's a great movie.
Fuck yeah, I'm excited. See, and I owe you a lot. Thank you very much for always doing these classic movies, because I desperately need, my water cooler fodder. For the future. I can't be a guy who hasn't seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest forever. These things have to change.
We've been pretty good. I think I've shown you Dog Day, and then I showed you Dr. Strangelove, and then I'll show you this today. And even like the weirder like Eraserhead, I showed you that. So, I think I'm doing my job.
Yeah, and my service to you is that if you're ever in a room full of complete fucking weirdos that have any knowledge of bizarre 90s sci-fi movies, that you'll be prepared.
I've seen The Relic, and I've seen Reign of Fire, and they're fucking terrible, but I love them.
Oh my God, I forgot I made you watch Reign of Fire. Yes.
I was just scrolling through my notes, and I was like, oh shit, we did watch Reign of Fire. It was such a weird dragon movie.
Dude, I need more dragon movies in my life.
And you know what? I think I like The Relic a little more, like, thinking about it in retrospect than I did watching it.
I think you liked it more than I did, to be honest with you.
Maybe I did. Maybe I did.
My childhood self let my older self down with how fondly I remembered that movie.
Yeah, it was, I think I knew what it was immediately, though. It was like a Species kind of movie, so when I went in with that mindset, I enjoyed it, I think probably more than you did. I still had my, quips with it, but I don't know. Species is a fucking classic. I don't care what anybody says. I fucking love Species.
That makes me so happy.
But I'll give you a little trivia before we go off and watch it.
Okay.
So this is some of the trivia from IMDb. So it uses many authentic mental patients apart from the main cast, like kind of like in the background, but a lot of the extras you see in the mental ward are actual mental patients that they use for the movie.
That's pretty bananas.
Yeah, it was the 70s, so it was kind of a lawless time. Like there weren't, counselors on set, so they were just like, just stick them in the movie. That's fine. But I haven't heard any stories, so I think they treated everybody with respect, and it wasn't meant to exploit anybody or anything like that.
Got it.
Because they're really just like extras to make it feel more authentic. I don't think it's like anything like that. Anyway, so this was interesting. I didn't know this. Jack Nicholson took a percentage of the profits on a small, because it was like pretty low budget film for, the time period, but it had a lot of young stars. So he took a percentage of the profits from the gross, and the movie ended up grossing over $120 million in the 70s. So that made him like a multi-millionaire.
Holy balls! How does that even happen? I guess, is that just a deal that gets made sometimes when a studio doesn't have a big budget? They'll make a deal with the stars.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with like leading, like they know that they're going to be box office draws, and they know that's going to be a big reason that people go see the movie. Sometimes, like Tom Cruise could probably still get something like that if he went on like an indie project. Like he could totally get like back end on that and have it not be. But I mean, Jack Nicholson was hugely famous at the time, and I think he knew that this was going to be the thing. This was going to be a big deal, but he was lucky enough to get back end on it, and it made him Hollywood royalty, I think, at that point, because he ended up winning Best Actor for this movie.
God, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, which is a huge, I think it was a bigger deal back then than it is now, probably. I think now it's more of like a status symbol than it is that it really means anything, like you ascend to the next level. Because nowadays, I was even having this conversation with Andy earlier about the Oscars. I think it's in the last 20 to 30 years, it's more surprising that people that end up winning Oscars end up doing like crap, like for the next like 5 to 10 years after winning one. And I had a theory, I don't know how true this is, but this is just my theory, that with actors at least, when you win an Oscar like that, you're kind of brought into like the upper echelon of, you're like A-list like automatically. So the amount of projects that you get offered are more studio venture projects, not as adventurous unless you seek them out, which most people don't end up trying to do. Anyway, it kind of limits the amount of scripts that you get thrown at you. because when you're like an up and comer, people are like, oh, you'd be good for this, and like you get tons of stuff. But when you're like, they know your pay bracket is up in the tens of millions of dollars, they won't even try to get you into a movie. So you end up doing a bunch of studio crap that nobody ever sees.
Man,
and that's just my theory on it.
You need to write a book, dude. Like seriously,
but I think
this is a serious theory.
Yeah, I think it's true because I mean, like studios tend to play it safe nowadays anyway, really safe, to the point where there's not a lot of artistic, endeavors that are done in Hollywood, and most people are like, they don't want to step backwards into like a pay thing. They've worked all their life and they don't want to take a pay cut, so kind of ride that until, it ends up kind of ruining their career a little bit. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just my theory. I don't know if that's true, but I believe it in my heart.
Yeah, crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. And then the last little piece of trivia, which is really fascinating, one of only 3 films to win the top 5 Academy Award prizes, which is Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. That's like the, I don't know, like the, what does Thanos wear in the Avengers movies? It's like the Infinity Gauntlet, where he's like all the stones.
Yeah. That's like the Infinity Gauntlet of the Oscars.
Yeah, this is the nerdiest thing I've ever said on this fucking podcast, but
I love it. Let your nerd out, my friend.
But yeah, that's like, the crown jewels of the Oscars is those top five awards. And the other 2 that won all 5 of those was It Happened One Night from the 30s. It was like a Frank Capra, Clark Gable movie, and then Silence of the Lambs with Anthony Hopkins, and the only other 2 that have won all 5 of the top prizes.
That's crazy. Is it weird that I just had a sudden urge to want to see like Jack Nicholson and Anthony Hopkins like play a game of Dungeons and Dragons?
It would be amazing.
I would pay a stupid amount of money to watch that.
If they were like dual dungeon masters and they had to do all the voices.
Yeah.
They had like the script.
Dude.
You know what? I don't even know if there is a film where they co-star together. I don't think there is. Which that would have been really cool. Like in both their, because it's weird to think now, because you always think of Anthony Hopkins as an older guy, but I think they're around the same age. Like they're not too far apart in age.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like they've just done different types of movies.
Yeah, and Anthony Hopkins being an English actor, he comes from I think a different school of acting style.
Yeah.
But both great actors. Anyway, that's all I got for my intro for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Well, fucking awesome. I'm super stoked to see this. We are going to watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Is it Cuckoo?
Cool.
Is it Cuckoo? Is it Cuckoo? What is the...
It's spelled Cuckoo. C-U-C-K...
Cuckoo.
2 O's and an S, yeah. Cuckoos.
Yeah, just I feel like nobody says it the same way. It's like Caribbean or Caribbean.
Yeah. I always think of like cuckoo, like the cuckoo clock.
Yeah, like a cuckoo clock. Cuckoo clock. All right, fuck it. We're gonna watch this movie.
Yeah.
We'll be back. Remember, when you hear that trumpet, that trumpet hook, that we got some spoilers. If you're as lame as me and haven't seen this classic movie, prepare yourself because they are on the way. We'll be back. All right, we're back. We are back with One Guy's Seen It. I have now become a guy that has also seen it, like most of the world. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Thank you, Sumner, for ruining the rest of my day.
Yeah, I'm happy to help.
Thank you for ruining the rest of my day with this masterpiece of a movie.
Did it make you sad?
Yeah, man. It just, it's like every great movie or story or book. It had me on an emotional roller coaster. There were highs and lows, and throughout all of it, I was completely uncomfortable, which I loved.
Yeah.
Dude, it was really, really, really good. It was really good.
Yep. Yeah.
I have to be honest with you, something that completely cracked me up, and I'm so ashamed to say this, because I know that in the intro you mentioned Danny DeVito, and I had completely forgotten by the time I started the movie, and I didn't recognize him until the boat scene. It took until the boat scene, and I out loud, alone in my apartment, said, "Holy shit, that's Danny DeVito." I don't know why I don't know if it was how good of a performance he had that I couldn't see it. It's the full head of hair. It's the fact that not that he was necessarily not a main character. He was sort of a side character, but he just hadn't had enough. I hadn't spent enough time looking at him to really to figure it out. But I just felt like an absolute idiot, because I remembered you saying Danny DeVito, and I digress.
No, I mean, I think that's the hugest compliment you could pay him, is that you didn't recognize him.
Didn't recognize him,
probably,
but
he's probably like in his mid 30s or early 30s or something like that. So he's pretty young in this movie.
Yeah, it blows my mind, because so obviously the movie was made in 75, and but it took place in 63.
Yes, which is something I didn't really know until today, until I looked at the IMDb synopsis, because there's something in that synopsis about Jack Nicholson's character being a Korean War veteran, and I don't think it's ever touched upon in the movie.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. The first thing I wrote down was, I remember you saying that in the plot, and it's never alluded to. I'm assuming he is in the book. I'm assuming it talks about it in the book.
Yeah, and I wish Andy was here, because I would ask her if that was more of a focal point in the book, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Because I mean, it would be pretty easy to diagnose a lot of his sort of manic behavior with just, obviously we're talking 1963 when this was taking place. I highly doubt post-traumatic stress disorder was even a thought in anybody's mind.
I think it was still labeled as shell shock then, so I think it was only like
shell shock
trauma that they were concerned with.
You would think that would have come up at some point in sort of the initial analysis of his behavior, even at the work camp or whatever.
Yeah, because I think in the movie they purposefully leave that more vague, like his backstory.
Yeah, and I guess maybe they had their reasons for that. But holy shit, like, what incredible performances all around from everybody. Like the whole ensemble was just awesome. I was sucked in and believing every moment of it.
Isn't it weird to see adorable Danny DeVito? Like when he's all young.
He really he is adorable. He looks, I think that's what killed me. It's like Danny DeVito just looks like a cartoon in my mind and he doesn't look like a cartoon in this movie. He just looks like a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just squinting and smiling all the time. Never seen.
Yeah, I very quickly stopped taking notes about 20 minutes in, because I was enjoying the movie so much and so absorbed into it that I was like, I don't need to take notes to talk about this movie.
Yeah, I had a similar thing too, where I've seen this movie a couple times, but yeah, I got into it and I just I only took like little things I wanted to definitely remember, but yeah, I took very limited notes as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, there were so many great scenes and so many great moments, and it was pretty crazy to see Doc from Back to the Future. Took me a minute to recognize him too.
I think this was his first film debut performance. I think this was his first one.
Really? Yeah, he played a great crazy guy.
Yeah.
It was on par with other things I've seen him in.
Yeah, he's fantastic in this. Like you said, everybody's so good.
Yeah, and you say what you want about Jack Nicholson. Like, I mean, it's an unbelievable performance. I mean, what's funny is like I feel like a lot of it he's just kind of being himself too, which made it probably somewhat of an easier role. I mean, I know he's it's a book. He's playing the character in the book, but it would seem like a character that was very well suited for him to play, and I feel like he probably really enjoyed the role.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it caters to his strengths as an actor, like that very manic side of himself, where he can be off the wall 1 minute and very like honest and open in another minute. Like he plays that balance really well, I feel.
Yeah, it felt the story and the major points of the story really felt a lot. It just felt like a classic the whole time. Like it felt like Of Mice and Men made me feel when I was in the 6th grade. Like it just felt like one of those stories, you know? I'm assuming this is required reading, or maybe not required reading, but I'm assuming this is a book people read in school. I feel like I remember that being a possibility. Am I imagining that? Probably
no,
not.
I think so. I think I may be wrong about this, but I think it got like blacklisted, like not blacklisted, but it became one of those like banned books. At a certain point.
Because there's all You've got all the borderline prostitution, drug stuff. Yeah, obviously. Okay, I can imagine this is not required. I'm gonna just put my foot in my mouth.
I think it got put in the same camp as like The Catcher in the Rye for similar reasons.
Okay.
Like all the cultural, but I think for a while it was. I'd say like in the 80s or 90s. I'd imagine so. Like in English classes, but in college, I think if you take like literature courses, that they'll probably touch on this, like modern literature courses.
Yeah, I can see that. Hey, and shout out to Miss Ratchet for winning the most punchable face award.
Oh yeah, she's so good at like that cold demeanor. Like she'll say something so cold and calculated, and her eyes are just so dead to everything. Like she's fantastic in this. Louise Fletcher, who plays her.
Yeah, she killed me. She was so perfectly hateable.
Yeah, and there are parts of it that I feel like you understand her a little bit, at least early on. I think early on, like her temper, like dealing with these people day in and day out, like you kind of get why she would have that demeanor. But towards the end, she definitely turns more villainous when she has no control over anything, and she'll just do anything to maintain that order. And, you know, obviously what happens at the end of the movie, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like you said, you understand why she is the way she is. Somebody has to be. And I feel like there are moments throughout the movie where what is it, McMurphy? Is that his name?
Yes.
Nicholson's character. It's like there are moments throughout the movie. Yeah, RP. It's like there are moments too, you know, he goes so far out of his way to get these guys out of their shell and to just, you know, get them to go do things, and just mainly he's just having a good time and trying to entertain himself, but he's getting the best of them while he's doing these things and bringing them out of their shell. He's getting the best of them. And then there are a few times throughout the movie where he sees, okay, like this is why these guys are in here. Like there are several of those moments, and then that's where you sympathize with Ratchet and with the workers in the hospital, and with any, like, shout out to all health workers in mental hospitals everywhere. Like that is gotta be like one of the most difficult jobs on the planet. Like I don't know how you don't end up there as a patient yourself. And I know back then the, you know, fucking electroshock therapy era of psychiatric treatment. There's some weird shit going on in hospitals at that time.
And I think that's largely why the book was written. Well, I mean, obviously the story that was being told, but I think a lot of it had to do with like the treatment of mental patients. And I want to say the book had some effect about, you know, like bringing those things to like public consciousness, because I don't think those were really talked about that much at large, and that really sparked a big debate, I think, about electroshock.
Yeah, I'm curious, when did I remember reading somewhere one time that when did lobotomies stop becoming acceptable practice? Like it was scarily recent, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I want to say it was close to the 70s, or it may have been in the 70s, but I honestly, I don't even, even by that point, I feel like it was probably few and far between. I don't know if it was like common practice by that time. I think in the early part of the century, it was much more common. But I think even by the 50s and 60s, it was seen as more barbaric. But I think it still happened for sure. Enough for it to have a book written about it. So I don't know the whole history of it that well, but I think even by that point, it was at least controversial. I don't think a lot of people viewed it as like, something that should be common. Yeah,
I'm seeing the last recorded lobotomy in the U.S. was performed by Dr. Walter Freeman in 1967. That is fucking ridiculous. Okay. But like you said, it had to have absolutely been a fringe weird thing for a while. In Europe, the Soviet Union banned lobotomies in 1950, a year after the inventor of the lobotomy won the Nobel Prize in medicine. What the fuck?
It took the Soviets way less time to be like, this is too insane even for us. We're not doing this.
Yeah. But I mean, what the fuck, man? Lobotomies. Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah,
we'll get to lobotomies. Yeah, dude, the whole movie was fantastic. There was this is a little ridiculous. This is one of the only notes that I wrote down. There was a scene that I want to talk about, like a really quick shot toward the beginning of the movie when he first gets there. There's a shot of a squirrel running through the barbed wire fence. Or running on top of the barbed wire fence. If you're not really looking, you probably miss it. But it's like a close-up shot of the squirrel running along the top of the barbed wire fence. And I couldn't help but think, like, how in the world did they get this shot? Like, I couldn't let it go. I was like, like, they were just on set, and somebody's like, holy shit, we gotta get that shot of that squirrel up there. Was it a trained squirrel that was brought in for a 3-second shot of it running on the barbed wire fence? And I couldn't stop thinking about it for like 5 minutes. It really bothered me.
Yeah, I have no idea. I feel like that.
I need answers, Sumner.
I feel like that had to have been one of those things they just saw and they were like, oh, we got to get that real quick. Because I feel like it would have just, for that one shot to get a trained squirrel to do that would be too much work.
That's what I'm saying. But how crazy is that to see that happen? Oh, we got to get that fucking squirrel. Look at the squirrels run on the barbed wire. Anyway, these are the things that clearly I need to be in a mental hospital because.
No,
but anyways,
I mean, like, it's easy to lose your mind, especially like back then. Like, sometimes things will just happen, and like if you think about it too much, I don't know. Like, the way they made movies back then was so different and chaotic. It seems like compared to now, everything is much more calculated and I don't know, not as free flowing. Like, this is definitely one of those movies you look back on and there's a lot of like, lightning being captured on screen. Just like spur of the moment kind of things.
Yeah, and chaotic, honestly, is a great word for this movie, period. I mean, I know it's just the story, but the frenetic pace of it. I mean, look. So what do you love about this movie? Like you rant, because I could just sit here ranting about random shit forever with no structure.
Well, I love the performances too, and I think that's the big element that draws you in, is like you're able to, I think in that first therapy session where they're all just sitting around in the circle just talking about their problems, and like you kind of you get a sense of every single character without them having to spell it out for you exactly. Like, you get a sense of what's wrong with them, and it's never told to you directly what is wrong with each individual person. You kind of have to make it up in your own mind or draw context clues about what's going on. And that's one of the things I love about it. And I think one of the things people who like the book are more frustrated with the movie is that everything is very vague. You don't get a lot of answers about each individual person. It's all very performance-based, and you have to, draw conclusions yourself a little bit, which is one of the things I like about the movie. It makes it interesting on rewatches, and kind of one of the things that makes me not want to read the book a little bit, because I don't want some of like the ideas in my head spoiled for me a little bit.
Yeah, I get that.
But I think the directing is the thing that I gravitate towards the most, because, well, you have all these great performances, but being able to capture all of them in such a clear and precise way without it becoming just mush and not having to have any clarity in a scene. is one of the things I was really impressed by. Especially, like I said, with that first therapy session where they're talking to the guy, he's talking about his wife, and he's like, my wife was cheating on me. I know she was. And she's like, well, how did you know that? He's like, I could just tell, like he has no real answer. He's just, either insecure or just, it's like an OCD kind of thing. He just can't let the idea go in his head.
Yeah,
And,
what does he say? He's like, I'm speculating about the possibilities of the speculation of the possibility of what she could be doing. It's like...
Yeah, and then
great.
Christopher Lloyd's character is just yelling. It's like, bullshit, you know why?
Bullshit.
He's just like screaming. And then they just get into this big screaming
he
match.
was fucking with him the whole movie. His character was fucking with him. What was the guy's name? The highly intellectual guy who the guy was talking about his wife. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, what the fuck was his name?
I want to say it's like Haskins or no. They called him Hardings. His name was Hardings.
Yeah, Harding is that's what it is.
McMurphy calls him Hard on the whole movie.
Yeah.
But they all just fuck with him, which is hilarious because like it's just the irony of that. He's really the most put together person there, and everyone just makes fun of him for it. Like
yeah,
like only
yeah,
there would he be
to...
getting made fun of for being the most normal.
Yeah, I think that's the funny thing about him is like he's trying to seem like the most put together, but he's also in there with them. But he's trying to act like he's like, I understand the world, but he's got this similar problems to all of them, like the similar kind of hang-ups, and he's got like this superiority complex over everybody. But
and he's in there voluntarily.
which is the big revelation I think in the middle of the movie. But I think my favorite character, or at least my favorite performance, I think, is the guy that plays Cheswick. The guy with the glasses,
I was trying to remember what else I'd seen him in because I know I've seen him in something else.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen that actor in something else. But there's something about his performance that is so authentically unhinged. I don't know. There's just something about the way that he delivers the lines. They're very earnest and like you get the sense of the character immediately. But I think it's just, I don't know, like every time he feels genuinely, authentically like a mental patient. And I even looked it up because I was really curious. I was really like drawn to his performance watching it this time. And the actor that plays him, they had I don't know, I think they had like psychiatrists on set for like, as like technical advisors about certain scenes. And the technical advisors were like, you should really check on him because he seems unwell because he was so into character in between scenes. And
holy shit.
Yeah, he was very in depth in his role, but he gets in these crazy screaming sessions where he's just so unhinged and it seems really genuine. And I don't know, I think his performance is at least my favorite in the movie. It's really really impressive.
Yeah. Oh, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead. That's what I've seen him in. I think he had a small role in it, and I used to watch that movie all the time when I was a kid, and I recognized his face. Yeah, he's been in a ton of shit. Sidney Lassick.
Yeah.
R.I.P. He passed away in 2003.
Oh,
R.I.P.
nice.
Sidney Lassick.
Yeah. yeah, he's a fantastic actor. And I think his character is, I don't know, it's never touched upon. I don't know if it's touched upon in the book, but he's like very empathetic and very like wants to help everybody out. Because there's even that first scene where he's like he always tries to back everybody up about what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like with Harding, and he's like, what do you get off telling him about his wife? You have no right to do that. And then Harding, he's like, can you stop? Don't stick up for me. It just makes it worse. Like, and he's just like, I just
get off my
you.
side.
Yeah, he's like, I just want to help. He has no way to understand. He just thinks he's doing the right thing, and it's yeah. I don't know. Interesting, really good character.
Yeah, and he loses it. He loses it a little bit later. Over the cigarettes, which was a crazy scene.
What about my cigarettes? I'm not a I love that scene too.
What gives you the right?
I love when he's like, I'm not a child, and then he starts pointing and like a toddler at her.
Yeah.
It's like, my cigarette. It's perfect. It's perfect.
And that's the reality check. That's the reality check that McMurphy gets throughout the movie, and we get as an audience too, is it's like McMurphy's antics somehow manage to bring out the adult human side in a lot of these guys, and then you get suddenly you get their childish nature, and the deficiencies show themselves, and then you understand. It's like this movie constantly. They're constant reality checks. You're like going in and out of reality, and you're experiencing that in the same way that in conjunction with how McMurphy is experiencing it, right? It's like he's almost in his own little reality, and he keeps almost convincing himself that these guys are just guys, and then he has it shoved in his face over and over again that that's not the case, and does he actually belong in here? The opening scene when he's first being brought in.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
The first thing like he just looks so happy to be there. He's like the new kid in school. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna run this school. Like that's the vibe you get.
Yeah, and I like that. It's left vague whether or not he's really meant to be there. I mean, you kind of guess that he's faking it a little bit, to get out of work detail. But based on some of the things he does, like you really don't know for sure. Even though that some of the psychiatrists, I think to me it seems like they just want to be done with him, and they don't really want to deal with it. But I don't know. There's a part of me that believes he probably should be in there a little bit. Like he was sent there for a reason.
I mean, there's so many layers to mental illness. There's no way they could know. I mean, and who knows how rudimentary the procedure and diagnoses for mental illness was back then. Like,
I think it was very
shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I think all that mental health stuff was probably in the last like 120 years that it really became a thing. I'm not sure if it was really even thought about in the 19th century that much. Like in the 1800s, nobody thought about it like that. So like the cutting edge was like Freud and what's the other guy? Not Freud. Jung. Their whole
Carl Jung.
Yeah, Carl Jung. And their whole thing, and then that kind of like started all that stuff. But yeah, even by then, I think it was pretty rudimentary, the understandings of human psyches and disorders and all that kind of stuff. But he was. I want to backtrack.
For the record, shout out to the intro. The intro music was very disconcerting, and definitely set the whimsical tone of the movie. I think that was necessary to get me in the right headspace.
And I did like the font of the opening title sequence too. It's something minor, but it was very like I don't know, like Canadian chic. I don't know another way to describe it.
Canadian chic.
It was like 70s Hallmark. I don't know another way to describe it, but I mean that's obviously not the tone of the movie, but it's very like laid back, and I didn't think it, like looking at the the lake and like the trees probably influenced that a bit, but
right. It almost felt like Bob Ross was about to start painting.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I did want to backtrack to what you're talking about at that first scene when he's in the psychiatrist's office, and he's getting like his initial run-in, so you kind of get a sense of what his character is in that scene. And I really love that scene very much because I love the way that the psychiatrist plays it. It's very natural and very like there's no agenda to the way that he's talking. Like it just seems like they're having a natural conversation, which is one of the reasons I like that scene so much. And he basically breaks down his whole whole background and stuff. And he asks him this question. He's like, so why do you think they sent you into the penitentiary? Why do you think you need mental help? And he's like, well, I think I fight and fuck too much. And then the guy says, he's like, in the penitentiary? He's like, oh, no. Like, it's like great. Like, and you assume that line would like have him be like, oh, what is wrong? But it like this really weird, awkward misunderstanding. Like he doesn't get that he's making a joke.
Right, like, and it's genuine from both sides, and that's you get like the first hint of okay, he might actually have some screws loose, but yeah. But that's the first real introduction to his character for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons I like Milos Forman's directing style is like he'll put in these people because like you have these like larger than life performances, but having these normal people to counteract those. So when they're in a scene with like a really normal person, like it really stands out the way that they're acting. That the contrast is really, really important. But yeah, and then there's a thing, and it's probably from the book, and this is one of those things I feel like if younger people watch this movie, they'd probably get turned off immediately because this is he talked about like in the first like 10 minutes of the movie, but it gets revealed that he was like convicted of statutory rape at some point.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He goes into this whole thing. He's like, well, she was 15 going on 30. It's like if you can get past that, it's like this tiny little detail thrown in, you know, and I know that would turn a lot of people off of the movie, but don't let that deter you.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, and it's also important too because it takes a little bit of whatever objective empathy you might have had for him. It curbs it early, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to assume going in based on the way he's acting that he doesn't belong in here. This story is probably going to be about him proving that he doesn't belong, at least going in knowing nothing, right? You assume that the story is going to be him proving that he doesn't belong here and he's just a normal guy and sure he's a jokester and whatever, and then oh by the way, statutory rape. You're like, okay, shit, like maybe there's some real reasons he's here, and this, it adds a layer that can curb whatever enthusiasm you might have for him as an audience member, which I felt like was important. Like I didn't want to just like him to kick things off. And he's not likable really at all. Like he's likable in that his character brings out the best in people around him that almost need an alpha fish like him in that pond to give them the confidence to, even though they're, it's long term, it's probably not going to be helping any of them. But you root for him because of what he's doing for the people around him, not because he's a good guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and I do think that little detail is important because it gives you a sense of like he's kind of a scumbag, and like there is a reason that he is in here. And but I just people watching it now, that would be like such a turnoff to the point that like there's no way you would ever root for him, kind of thing. Depending on who you are or how you feel about that sort of thing. So I don't know. Yeah, just little thing, but yeah, don't want to get hung up on that.
No, I get that. And to be fair, I don't think I was ever really rooting for him at any point, which, because I almost feel like that's not the point. Like, even if you are sort of in the back of your mind, it's like, there's no way this is going to end well. Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
you get that vibe pretty early
moving on. Yeah.
Yeah, and he is like an anti-hero, which is kind of the way that they describe him, is like he's not a person that is not morally upstanding at all. There's nothing morally good about him other than he is willing to give these guys what he thinks that they need, whether that's right or wrong. It like gives them like, a sense of life in a very sterile environment. And that's one of the great things between Ratchet's character and McMurphy's character that I really enjoyed a lot watching it again, was that there are moments where he just says and does things in the group sessions where she'll look at him and be not trying to stop him. She doesn't say anything to stop him from talking, but she almost wishes she could be that honest and candid with them. And he's like she almost, there are moments where he says something that she almost kind of wants to agree with him, but she can't say that in her line of work because, that's not helpful, like, because she wants them to have those revelations on their own. But sometimes, people in those state need the push to, get out of their own tailspins, I guess.
Yeah, and there was a point in the movie that makes me think. Sorry, finish your point. Sorry, continue.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's all. But I just like that dichotomy between their characters is really interesting.
Yeah, so more to that. There was a point. There was a scene in the movie where they're trying to decide what to do with them. I think right after the big epic fishing boat scene where as doctors they all fraudulently charter this boat and go. Which, dude, the fishing scene was just fucking gold. I mean, just every part of it, just the chaos and the like pure joy of all of it was. It's like you're uncomfortable and you're freaking out the whole time that something horrible is going to happen. Just the instability of the situation.
Right. It's just going to fall or, teeter. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the whole reason I bring that up, so it's like I think it's shortly after they get back from that, and they're like all the psychiatrists are in the room, and they're trying to with the nurse with Ratchet, and they're trying to decide what to do with him. And it's like up until that point, you have the idea that she can't stand him and would want nothing more to get rid of him. And then she says something that I just didn't expect. That she's like, we should keep him around. I think I can fix him. And so there's a part of me that thinks that she, like you said, I think it was weird. I think her feelings toward him were complicated. Like in a way, he was refreshing. To her because he probably didn't deserve to be there, or she could at least speak to him normally and get normal rational responses from him. And it's like even though every part of her wanted him out because he was fucking up her control, it was almost like she thought it was like a challenge. It's like she was embracing the challenge and she wanted to win somehow. She was very layered to me, and because of her stone cold, face, I couldn't. I'd have a feeling that I would have understood her character a lot more reading the book. I struggled to peel back the layers with her, even though she's she wears her feelings on the surface, but there were points where I just didn't quite understand her motivations. Yeah,
and I think that's an enjoyable thing. Like watching the movie is like those layers, I think, get a little more revealed, or at least you can, knowing where the story is going, you can kind of interpret her reactions. But that's the thing, it's like I really commend Louise Fletcher because, like you said, I mean, like everything she says is so cold and calculated, and she's trying to say exactly in a very methodical kind of way, but there are moments with her face that are so like so perfectly done. Like you can read her face so perfectly what she's feeling, but it's also just like, I don't know. It's just like she's trying to be there, but she's like, I'll also kill you if you keep talking. Like it's so.
Yeah. Well, how did you interpret her wanting him to stay?
So I kind of read that two ways. Like one, like you said, like I think to try and like keep a challenge for herself, because like day in day out of doing the exact same thing with no results is very boring, and like you're not getting anywhere with these guys and it's not helping. So having this X factor that you can't predict could potentially snap some of these guys out of their ways of thinking, and not everything is so calculated and regimented, and they're not caught in this loop of getting up and doing therapy sessions and doing work and going to bed. Like it kind of throws a wrench into the whole cycle of their existence at the facility. And then there's like another part of me that thinks it's like more, I don't know, villainous, I guess, that she wants to show these guys that she can control whatever this is also, and that she's like the absolute authority. And I don't know. I think it's a mix of both, personally. I don't think it's one or the other. Like, I think she's much more complicated than that. Like you said, yeah, there's a lot of depth to her character that makes her interesting.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm kind of on board with that. Yeah, like a combination of. There was part of me that thought at some point she might fall in love with him. I was desperate for a Ratchet and McMurphy love arc, but I didn't get it, and that's fine.
That'd have been so weird.
But speaking of love arc, man, we got to talk about Candy's character.
Candy.
I was trying to. His relationship with her reminded me of somebody's relationship with a woman and something else. I feel like I feel like there are a few movies that sort of depict a relationship like this, where it's like some piece of shit jailbird guy has this like girl in the trailer at home just pining for him, and will fucking like drop everything and do anything to help him do whatever he's trying to do. But it's just so hard to wrap your mind around. I don't know. Her character was hilarious to me. Like what is she doing with her life where she's just available to do to do all of this?
Well, I think there could be an element that she is like a prostitute. That would make sense for she's got this friend that's willing to come along with her, and they're willing to just sleep around with every guy at the place. Like,
yeah, maybe I didn't pick up on that. Are they obviously prostitutes, and I just I was innocently interpreting it a different way, that she was just like an ex-girlfriend who was still in love with him. Probably much more likely they were prostitutes, right? I should have read that way.
I think, I mean, that's the way I've interpreted it, is like she's a prostitute, but like they're friends also. Like he's hung out with her, and like he's just kind of like the quintessential like bad boy type of dude that knows how to have a good time kind of guy. So it's just fun to hang out with, I guess. But there's also that thing
she
where
just likes hanging with him.
But she's also willing to drop everything and go to Canada with him at the end of the movie. So there's another element to where it's like one of those. So, I mean, I think the time period is really important too, because this takes place in 1963. And like the beatnik hippie movement was pretty much, it was like on the precipice of happening in like the next couple of years. So like that kind of free love, like open beatnik kind of relationship was a thing too. So there are different ways to interpret it, I think, but I think it's also like commenting on the culture of post-adolescent relationships where nobody wants to commit to something deeper than sex, which is like all their relationship is based off of, is just sex, just using her for sex, pimping her out for other people for sex. So there could even be a thing with him being her pimp. I have no idea. There could be a whole lot of elements to that.
Yeah, I need more information.
Yeah, maybe it gets touched upon in the book. I'll have to ask Andy if it's in the book.
Yeah, mail me the book. I want to read the book.
Yeah, we have it framed in the house, actually.
You have it framed?
Well, because Hank, when Andy first got him, Hank, our dog, for anybody who's curious.
Hank the dog.
Hank
not
Hank
your weird
dog.
roommate.
No, but yeah, Hank chewed up her copy of One Flew to the Cuckoo's Nest, and that was her first copy of the book. So she got it together and wasn't too mangled up, so she just framed it because she loved that book so much.
Classic Hank.
Yeah, little bastard. But
it's kind of cool.
But we have to talk. Yeah, it is pretty cool. But I think we have to talk about Billy now. I think we've gotten to that part. Okay,
go ahead.
So I think early on, you get a sense that Billy is, well, he's a young kid. He's definitely younger than everybody there, and he's got a pretty severe stutter. Can't really communicate very well. He's very nervous, and he has this odd relationship with Nurse Ratched in the sessions, because I think in that second therapy session she's talking to him, and the way it's played in the first one, it's like they're all medium shots and everything's a little further away, but when she's talking to Billy in that second session, because in the first one he doesn't want to talk very much, but she gets him to talk in the second one, and they're on these really tight close-ups of both their faces. So in the cinematic language, I guess that means there's more significance to this particular relationship when you close up like that and you do a back and forth. So she definitely has more power over him than she may have over anybody else that she is a nurse for in the ward. And that gets revealed later on when she's good friends with his mom, they're old friends or something like that. And there's that interesting dynamic that I looked this up while I was watching the movie too. Like a thing with stutters that I was reading about, and it's not true in all cases, but often the stutters early on when you're in your developmental years stem from abuse and like some form of abuse, and people growing up develop stutters because of that. And I'm not saying that's true for all cases, but like that's like a common thing that can happen with people that stutter. And so I think there's an underlying element of very bad abuse, which, you know, obviously the way things play out, I think is pretty much what I, you know, assess is what's going on there. But
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, anyway.
And you find out that he's like that Ratchet is really good friends with his mother, right? You find this out?
Yeah, like at the very end, which I guess we'll get to in a minute, because I do want to talk about the two things I want to talk about. Sorry, I'm talking all over. Do you want to? Is there anything that you want to talk about?
No, dude. Yeah, Billy's arc is fascinating, and it too because Ratchet's so evil. I can't help but think that she'd be friends with Billy's evil mom, and Billy's evil mom's been beating the shit out of him his whole childhood, and now he's stuck here and he doesn't know how to love. So,
yeah, it's fucking bullshit, man.
There's some shit going on, man.
So I think before we get into the outcome of that, I do want to get into the scene with the cigarettes, which I think is a great scene. Where we talking? Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about when they're playing cards early on, and what's his face can't figure out the difference between a dime and a nickel, and he's keeps splitting the cigarettes in half. I do want to talk about that too. Yeah, because that's a good precursor to that scene. Because so they're betting. I think they're playing blackjack early on, right? Around the table.
The first game they're playing, I can't remember. It's not poker, but it's something else. Pinochle, and then when he first gets in there, and then later when he's running he very quickly takes over the card games, and then it's blackjack, and nobody can fucking figure out how to play blackjack.
Yeah, and Martini, he's splitting the cigarettes in half, and he's like, I bet a nickel. He's like, this is shit. It's not worth anything. You got to bet a dime. Yeah, dimes the buy. And then Danny DeVito's adorable little face. He's like, I'm in.
Yeah, he keeps trying to bet dimes throughout the right when Jack's first betting to or when McMurphy's he bets everybody that he can pull the fucking water fountain out of the ground. They're fucking Harding's I bet you $25, and then he's like a dime. I bet you a dime. It's the only thing he's willing to bet.
Yeah, I love that Harding knows it's okay, that thing weighs 2,000 pounds. You're not gonna pick that up, you fucking psycho.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in the World Series too. Yeah, I guess we got to talk about that too. Shit, yeah, there's so much in this movie, but
there's a lot. And I don't want us to get bogged down scene by scene, because you could talk about every fucking scene in this movie. They're all awesome.
Yeah, but I guess that's the first instance of her. Because I think he alludes to that later on when he's talking to the doctors, and he's like, yeah, she likes a rigged game, which is basically what she does. She's not playing fair in that scene.
Yeah.
With the votes and want to watch the World Series. All the guys want to watch the World Series but are too scared to. Anyway, they get the second night of the World Series. He gets all the guys to vote, and she's like, there are only 9 votes. He's like, it's a landslide. And then she's like, well, there are 18 men on this ward. And he has to try to convince all the other guys that can't really speak or form sentences to try and vote. And he gets the chief, which is the first instance of him really communicating in any way, I feel like.
The chief, my hero.
Yeah, one of the best characters in the movie. And and then she closes the session early because she, doesn't trust where it's going. He's ambitious about it, and she closes it in one of the cuntiest things she does in the movie. She just just cuts it off.
Yeah, you lose all sympathy for her after that point,
because I get trying to maintain control in an environment like that. If they see weakness on your part, like, you know, like it'll create disorder and all that. Like, I get that, but like when you're talking about recreation, like that's like a team building thing, I feel like, right? Like we're all in this together. Like I'm not trying to,
and
like,
to your
I'm not your
earlier
prison
point,
warden.
Yeah, exactly. And to your earlier point, if part of the reason that she wants McMurphy to come back is so that she can, you know, if part of it's because okay, let me put it this way: if she feels like she hasn't been getting what she wants out of the guys, you got to try something new. And what is the harm in the guys all doing something new and breaking their routine for a little while? What is the worst that could happen? It's I don't know.
Yeah. So it's it's counterintuitive. I think ironically it makes her look weak in that moment. Yeah. That she's not willing to bend in that way, because I think it's really just like vengeance to McMurphy for rallying everybody against her. Like she doesn't want to appear weak in that way, but I think ironically she does in that moment. Like it kind of goes against them. Like everybody kind of, they're a little too skittish to really admit it right off the bat, but I think that's like the sows of dissent have been planted, I guess, or the seeds of dissent. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a pretty important scene, I think, for, you know, the rest of the movie. And then and then you get this scene with Cheswick and the cigarettes, and he gets really, because they started rationing the cigarettes after they find out they've been gambling them away in the bathroom, and he has this whole freak out. And I think that's right after McMurphy finds out that that they're all there voluntarily, but that with him being there and not being back in prison, like he doesn't get out in 68 days. Like they control when he's released, so he finds that out like at the beginning of that scene. And I think at the very beginning he's trying to play it very, like, you know, casually. He's like, you know, I'm going to try and play by the rules a little bit. And then, you know, Cheswick starts losing his shit over the cigarettes, and then it gets to a point where it's like too much to handle, and he just breaks the window and grabs the cigarettes out of the room, which is, you know, probably one of the most, as opposed to the end, it was one of the most insanely violent things he's done up until that point.
Yeah, it was fucking epic.
Yeah. But it's just like, yeah, because he's just screaming about how he wants something done, and then he just does something just because nobody's doing anything about anything. So he has to, you know, break the mold of whatever the fuck this is. Yeah. And it was weird too, because up until that point, the guy that you were saying was your favorite character, I can't remember his name. Cheswick.
You just said it. Cheswick, thank you. It's like up until that point, you kind of, like you said, you feel like you understand his character, and you feel like even though he's a little, I don't even know how to explain it. Like he's a little, I guess a little unpredictable. Like but he seems very sympathetic, like a very sweet guy, right? He's kind of siding with everybody, and that's really the first moment of violence and real instability that you get from him, which again leads to you realizing as an audience member, like, oh shit, okay. Like you understand why Ratchet has to do things the way she has to do things, because shit will just fly off the hinges so easily. Yeah. And so, that's the unfortunate thing about her state. But I think there's a thing too with the guards too, the guys, especially that guy Washington, who is a fucking asshole to everybody. He's like pushing them around, and like he's like talking shit to them all the time, and like making fun of them. Like he's such a dick, like the whole time. Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, I get that there's got to be like an enforcer type of guy in a place like that, you know, who can handle the situation when things get violent. And I feel like that guy's not necessarily gonna be the most fun type of dude to be around. But I thought the actor did a great job being a dick. Oh yeah, he did. Like, he played that really well. It was very, very convincing. But it's I think that's another thing that, like, I think he gives a sense of like it's not just a mental ward; it's almost like a prison, which I think is like It's like an important distinction to make, because she runs it like a prison warden, and then he's kind of like the guard, just kind of like
well, he's not overly violent or anything like that, but he'll shove them around and like, doesn't have a whole lot of respect for them in their state. So, but it's a shitty job, like he doesn't understand a lot about mental health. So, you can't, I don't know. It's not to the point where it's like, abusive or too abusive. I don't think it's on the fringe, I guess, is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. And we got, I can't wait to talk about Big Chief's character. Cause what a character arc for this guy. He's just the most lovable dude in the movie, hands down.
Yeah.
He's been playing everybody. He's been playing everybody like a fiddle.
Yeah.
And it's awesome too. I love how quickly that guy's character. That's really the only name you ever get for him is Chief, right? I don't think we ever get another name.
I don't think so.
But it's crazy how quickly you can tell that he likes McMurphy. Like very early on, you can tell he just appreciates the change and somebody who's coming in and just spicing things up, and somebody who doesn't give a shit. And like you can just tell, and it's funny too because when you first see his character, you would think he would. At least my thought was that he would sort of have the inverse reaction to a personality like McMurphy, that he would just be annoyed with him and want to squash him, and he has the total opposite reaction and loves him, and his love for him grows throughout the movie, culminating in some pretty epic shit.
He kind of like gets him out of his shell.
I know it was kind of the point. Yeah, he gets, and I know it was kind of the point, right, that, like, every time, they have so many opportunities to leave before what ends up happening, and I guess that's a huge emotional element of the movie, right, is that he's motivated by the idea of, McMurphy's character's motivated by the idea of getting out of this place, and he throws a tantrum when he realizes he can't leave on his own accord, but he's really, there's a part of him that's really loving, feeling like a big fish in this place, and feeling like he's making a change, and really starting to love these guys, and he has a few opportunities to get out, and I think that culminates in the huge epic party scene, which we could totally talk about if you want to. But
I do. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that.
And I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but like when the zoom shot on his face at the end of the party, I think is when you realize, like he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to leave this place. Like I know he passes out, but like that slow, creepy Jack Nicholson smile you get tells you everything you need to know about his psyche at that point, which is this is better for him right now and more satisfying than what's outside.
Yeah, and there's like, I think there's an element where he knows he's top dog, but I think at a certain point, it's almost like a brotherly kind of thing. Like the older brother that can like show you stuff and like knows the world a little bit.
And feeling like their leader and like he has a duty to them to make sure that they don't lose their shit here. But they already have.
Yeah. Needs that kind of, I don't know, like positive male counterpart, I guess. Like in a leadership, like, dad kind of role, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. Like somebody that doesn't always play by the rules and like, bends the system a little bit. He bends it a lot throughout the course of the movie. But dude, okay, we got to talk about the party scene because it's so well planned out, right? Go ahead. I do want to backtrack just a little bit to right before when the first electroshock treatment happens.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just a little thing, but yeah, like after that big blow up about the cigarettes and stuff, and they get sent down to the like that underground ward, and Cheswick freaks out because I think he knows what's going to happen. Like he understands like where they are and what's about to happen to them. And there's I think that's the first scene you see Chief really talk to McMurphy, and he says thank you for like the juicy fruit or something like that. You remember that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's epic. I lost my shit.
Yeah. He's like, thank you. And then like, and then Jack Nicholson gets taken into that back room, and that scene, I gotta give all the props in the world to Jack Nicholson because it looks really convincing when they put like the little electrodes on his temples, and then they kind of move him up on the side of his head, and he's got the little mouthpiece in his mouth, but the way he's like cocks his head back so violently, and it's just like it's really well done, really powerful scene, and it's really well done. But then he goes back up and acts like he's been lobotomized, and he acts all like walking like a zombie, and then Chief sees him and everybody gets really nervous and freaked out because they think he's been lobotomized, but then he just gives a little wink to Chief, which is a great touch to that scene.
So good, dude, so good.
Yeah, and then he just starts laughing like great. It's great, really well done. But anyway, let's get to the party scene. Let's get to more fun stuff.
No, but I mean, you're right. That was, fucking awesome scene. But dude, we got to talk about the night guard. I can't remember his name, but the dude.
What was his name in the movie?
I can't remember, but I don't. It's so bizarre, right? Because this whole escape plan is so well planned out by McMurphy, right? So he's got the ladies coming. They're bringing booze so that. And his plan is to.
His name.
Turkle, yeah. And his plan is to convince the night guard to party with them so that he can take his keys and they can get out. And it's really bizarre because like a few minutes, obviously to get the ladies there, he has to call them, and he has this beautiful sneak into the office while the night guard's doing his little patrol. And it's like, it was shocking to me how easy it was for him to convince the guy to party. Like once the girls were there, as soon as he looked at them, it's like if he knew it was going to be that easy, why do you even have to sneak to the phone? Like I just thought it was funny. Like he was so easy to win over.
I think the girls were a big part of that. Like if he didn't see the girls, like he wouldn't be on board with it, kind of thing. Or if he didn't know they had the booze already, like right outside the door. Because I feel so bad for that guy.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I know, it's his job, man. You're fucking with my job, you motherfuckers.
It's the great Scatman Carruthers. It's the actor's name, Scatman Carruthers.
Are you serious? That's an awesome fucking name.
Yeah, got a great name. Because he was in The Shining. I don't know if you remember him, but he's Dick Halloran in The Shining.
Oh no shit, that's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, they get the girls in there and have this whole party, and he's like, I think he like gives them like $40 maybe to like be like, hey, let's party, And he's pretty won over pretty immediately, and that whole sequence is great because it doesn't go very smoothly at the beginning because they get everybody in and they get the booze already, and then Turkle freaks out. And he's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? We can't have booze. No, you can't give him booze. And then that night guard nurse walks in, and then all the patients are hiding in the back office while he's in there. Yeah. And they're all in the dark. And he's like, the nurse is out there, man. He's like, where's Turkle? He's like, I'm back here. I'm hiding with you guys. I'm not going out there.
I'm not fucking going out there. Yeah, dude, I was laughing my ass off. It's so good. Yeah, because dude, you gotta be out there. What the fuck's the lady gonna think?
Yeah, then he gets busted because she hears like something going on. It's a really tense scene. Like it's really well done because you think they're gonna get busted at any second. And like somebody drops something in the room, and she's like, "Let me see what's behind that door." And then the girl opens up the door, and he's like, it's man gets lonely or something like that. She's like, I want her off the floor immediately. It's just no sympathy or anything. And he's like, at that point, he's like, I just lost my job. My whole life's over. This fucking sucks.
He went through it. He went through that. And you don't even really see what happens to him. And you assume he gets fired, but the last scene is just him passed out on the couch when they walk in.
Yeah, he like kicks everybody out and just takes a bottle of Jim Beam and just gets fucked up and passes out, I guess, because he doesn't do anything the rest of the movie. But yeah, then the whole, and it's just really it's just a really joyous scene. You just see all the guys like have fun and just get drunk and just party and just have a good time.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out the makeshift booze, what do they call that? The fucking where like the oh my god, the like nozzle where the
the little shotgun nozzle.
Yeah, like a shotgun nozzle. They like make their own little makeshift one. It's like a mix of a bunch of nasty ass liquor.
Yeah, with like the IV tube like in the little can.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
He's like feeding the guy who I might be wrong, but I want to say it's the guy. It might not be actually now that I think about it, but I thought he was the Goonies guy who's in the bed that they're feeding the booze to. The Hey You Guys guy.
Oh yeah, he did look familiar. No, that can't be the same guy.
It might not be, but he looked really like him. But that could have just been prosthetics and been another guy. But
yeah,
I've definitely seen that guy.
I think the guy in the
movies.
Goonies was all prosthetics.
Yeah, but it could have been him because I've seen that guy in other '70s movies. He's like 7 feet tall and like you know him as soon as you see him. Like he's got the kind of misshapen head, he's bald. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it is the same guy. Because I knew I'd seen his face in something else.
Yeah. I don't know for sure, but yeah. And then you get he's trying to convince Chief to go with him to Canada, and I think there was an earlier scene where he basically opens up to him about his dad being an alcoholic, and that whole speech is really well delivered. Where he's like, talking about like he's like he would suck down a bottle and then he would like I saw the soul get sucked out of him with every drop. It was really like poetic dialogue, really well.
Yeah,
really well
the
done.
bottle sucked the soul from him. Yeah, your first bit of character development.
Oh, and there was another thing. Well, we'll talk about this later, but I'll tell you now. Fuck it. So the guy Harding, I didn't know this. The actor on set of the movie, they had doctors and psychiatrists to be like technical advisors, whatever. But he didn't know while he was filming the movie. But there was a doctor that looked at him and talked to him for a bit, and he's like, "Yeah, I've got some pain." And the doctor's like, "You might have leukemia," and he's like, "Really?" And he died like 8 months after filming this movie. The guy that plays Harding, the guy with the mustache.
That's so sad.
Yeah, he was only 49 years old, but he had no idea he had leukemia, and just died.
That fucking sucks. I did not need that information. Thank you, Sumner.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to impart that because I learned it. It made me sad too.
Yeah, bummer. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Fantastic. But yeah, oh god, where was I going with that? So, what do you remember about the party scene?
Oh, you were talking about the Big Chief's dad story.
Yeah, which was really good. And then
probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Every time he talked, I got so excited.
Yeah, and you can tell that they're like really bonding in that moment, and then Billy is really enamored with Candy, I think, at the party, and he's like dancing with her.
Madly in love. Yeah, and that was a weird moment for me too when they're kind of dancing at the end of the night and everybody's passed out, and you have this moment where it seems like for a split second McMurphy's kind of feeling a little bit of jealousy, and very quickly that gets removed when he starts trying to set him up with her, and get this hilarious scene where everybody's rooting for Billy and carries him in against his will, and
quote unquote against his will.
Yeah, quote unquote against his will, and this will be real quick. Clearly not quick for anybody. Everybody fucking passes out. Yeah, and it is kind of a sweet scene in a really fucked up kind of way. He's like, and again, it's almost like a big brother kind of moment. He's like, "Oh, you can tell me what you think about Candy." And it's like, it's sweet, and like in a way that he's also pimping this girl out to Billy. Yeah, it's sweet in as much of a way as a scumbag can be sweet. Yeah,
but you get the impression from Candy that she's pretty much down with anything, because she's pretty much on board, like in a minute. Or he even says this really weird thing too when he's about to go in the room. He's like, think of me the whole time. And he's like kissing her, making out with her. It's really weird.
Yeah. Again, I got so many questions about their relationship, but it's not important. Yeah. Relationships are complicated. Yeah,
and then he sits there and kind of just blows his opportunity to leave. And then you wake up the next day, the party's over, and then, the oh shit moment happens when they all come in. And it's like, oh, fuck. Like, you know what's going to happen. Like, it's going to be bad as soon as the guards walk in, and they just start laughing, which I think is great.
Yeah, their reactions are priceless.
Yeah, and then, Nurse Ratched walks in and doesn't have the same humor about the scenario. And
and you know what's funny too is you expect her reaction to be boisterous and out of control and screaming and raging and yelling, and somehow her reaction is more powerful and disturbing by her mostly lack of a reaction. And she discovers Billy in the room, Billy and Candy in the room, and then fucking grills him in front of everybody, tries to turn him into a traitor.
Yeah, and Billy, to his credit, tries to stand up for himself at the beginning. She's like, aren't you ashamed? And he's like, no, I'm not. And he tries to, and then she drops the mother card, which to me, I think is the most evil thing she does in the whole movie, is that part right there. Because based off his reaction, she knows what that is going to do to him in that moment. Like, it's her final straw of, like, maintaining control over the situation and, like, shutting everybody the fuck up. And, it's the worst possible thing she could have done to him. Because obviously what happens in the next scene, because he rats everybody out and doesn't want to do it and feels really ashamed about it. And then they drag him off and he's like, please don't tell me. Like, he's on his bed. This is why I think that it's like an abuse situation, because he's like, like on his hands and knees begging her to not say anything. So I don't know. I think there's some really bad shit going on behind the scenes there. Freaks out and gets like hauled away by one of the guards. And there's this funny little moment right after that where McMurphy goes to Chief. He's like, all right, let's get out of here. Even though like everybody's there now, they still have the keys.
Right. Yeah.
And they're just like trying to open the lock. Like they're obviously like hungover and like don't know what's going on. And then the guy catches them while they're doing it.
Yeah, they're not even trying that hard.
What the fuck are you doing? Yeah. And then McMurphy just punches him in the face, and like they open up the thing, and like they have a chance to get out in that moment because the other guy he like puts his belt around his knuckles or something like that.
Yeah, because now he means business.
Yeah, he's like, protect his knuckles, come beat the shit out of you.
Leather knuckles, man. It's even more threatening than brass knuckles because he doesn't even need the brass, you know?
I don't even need that, man. But and then it gets broken up because the girl screams and she's got like blood all over her. And the guard like makes a decision, so he runs back and doesn't worry about them. So he has a chance to leave, but doesn't do it. And he goes to check on Billy, and he's, killed himself a really grisly, brutal way. Like, I think he took like a shard of glass to the neck or something like that, and that scene is really, disturbing and powerful. But it's, cause it happened so quickly. The fact that he's just, snap dead as soon as they get in there. And I think it would have been, if he had still been alive, it would have been too much. It just would have been too like, it didn't need to be that gruesome, I don't think. But I just think it's funny, like with suicide, it's not immediate. You're not gonna die like that second,
right?
Unless something, but it's minor detail, just nitpick.
Well, hey, I mean, according to Band of Brothers, you get that certain artery in the leg severed, you can bleed out in minutes. So who knows with the jugular? Which
I think we disproved.
Oh, did we?
Like, there are a couple guys. Well, because there's a couple guys that get their legs blown off, and obviously that artery gets cut, and they get saved. And they're still alive.
Yeah,
it's a gray area.
It's funny, after we recorded that podcast, I spent some time thinking about it because it's just what I did, and I thought, well, maybe there's a chance that like when the leg is blown off, depending on like the severity of the fire from the explosion that severs the leg, that maybe it like cauterizes the artery in rare cases. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
I feel like that's a possibility, or at least cauterizes it enough, or I don't know.
Because I think in one of those scenes, like those guys get their legs blown off like back to back.
Yeah,
and they both
survive.
surviving.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we're silly geese with this stuff.
Yeah, but I think in that moment he's probably just trying to soothe. Anyway, we don't have to talk about Band of Brothers. We already did that for 3 episodes.
Yeah, we did.
4 episodes.
But yes, Billy tragically and graphically takes his own life, and then shit really hits the fucking fan. I mean, it goes from 0 to 60 from the party to
him trying to murder Nurse Ratched on the floor.
Yeah, that was fucking intense, man. I really thought she was a goner.
Yeah.
And I thought too, I don't know if it was just the way it was shot, but when the kind of security guy comes up and takes him off of her, I thought he'd straight up shanked him in the back. Like, I thought that his actions were enough to warrant killing him, and I thought he was dead already, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's the way that like his head goes back really quickly, like he had been like immobilized completely.
Yeah.
Or like his spine got fucked up or something like that, because he just kind of goes like, like, I don't know, cold fish, like straight up, and just falls to the floor.
Yeah, I was like, that was my thought. Was like, what could the guy have possibly done to him that would have made him react that way? I mean, just like maybe knocked him on the head, but it seemed like he hit him in the back with something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He gets knocked out. The next morning, you get everybody back to their usual routine. There's like rumors going around, right, that he's escaped. There's a rumor that he beat up a couple guys in the hallway. There's a rumor that he's upstairs. And then you get the ultimate irony of him staggering in post lobotomy in a very similar way that he was faking it about an hour earlier.
Yeah.
And
And the chief discovers him and thinks he's all right, and he's like, "Hey, we can get out of here now."
Yeah,
and,
it was so sad. It's so sad, man.
Yeah, and then I think Chief does the merciful thing and just puts him out of his misery, which is, if there's ever like a proper mercy killing, I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
Especially knowing his personality, that's probably what he would have wanted in that scenario.
Yeah. I'm taking you with me, buddy. I'm taking you with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know when the book was written, because I feel like it was the early 60s, so I think it's more powerful if the book was written in the early 60s, because lobotomy was still a thing at the time.
Yeah, making
or
some
it was
big
still a
points
potential
about
thing
it
at the time. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that it was written then, but I don't know for 100% certain, because you said it got outlawed in 67 in the US.
The last one was performed in I already lost it. I think it was 1967.
Yeah. So I think it was like it was like trying to make a point. It's like, this should be like done. This should be like medieval shit by now. We shouldn't still be like a possibility this could happen.
Yeah, and we get our epic chief doing the physically impossible, ripping the fountain out, throwing it through the window, and riding off into the sunset like the boss that he is. And I wish him all the best in his future endeavors.
Hopefully he goes to Canada, meets up with Candy and the other lady. They live happily ever after.
Yeah, I need a sequel, man. I need a sequel. But you killed it again, man. With I'm so glad you made me watch this, because it is a masterpiece. It had me feeling things, all kinds of things, all the way through. It didn't feel like a 2-hour movie at all. Like I wasn't ready for it to be over.
Yeah.
And
it flows by. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. That's saying something for a movie that's pretty much all shot in one location with the same set of characters. That's saying a lot. That the book was well written enough, and that the actors did such an incredible job at their performances that I was just completely sucked in from start to finish, and didn't want the story to be over. It was a great movie.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree.
And I know, like you
Yeah,
said,
one of the-
there's some elements of it that people are gonna cringe at and struggle with, but I mean, it's the book. That's right. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think those elements that I talked about, I think they're like tiny little nitpicky things. I don't, people that appreciate, it's hard to say, but I mean, like it's kind of just the nature of the material, I guess, and it's, I don't know, it's
the nature of the material and the era and the time period, and you have to deal with those things when you're trying to appreciate what's considered classic art and timeless art. It's just part of it.
And to me, even like those tiny things that I mentioned, I feel like are even nitpicky in retrospect.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people would really like, be completely offended by certain things that I mentioned, but just in a modern sense, I guess it's worth throwing out there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I really stopped taking notes because I just wanted to appreciate it. I mean, I got nothing else to say about it. Like, it was fucking awesome. I mean, was there any other trivia or any cool stuff you wanted to throw in there for our listeners?
No, I think that was pretty much it. And I think to your point too is like it's not really littered with like a lot of stuff. Like there are like big scenes that happen, but I think overall like everything is so simple and so easy to understand. Like it just, and I think that's like that classic element to it too. It's like I think in any context, like this is pretty universal. It's just like human condition.
Yeah. Those movies and books and stories that end up becoming classics are things that can exist outside of necessarily the cultural context of the time. It's just like you said, a human condition story. That's what it's about. That's something that anyone can relate to and appreciate, which is why. That's why for instance, games that focus so much on character development and voice acting and motion capture end up, doing so well is because it's just all people really want is to see themselves and see human beings deal with human things, and it's timeless,
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I love movies so much, or just art in general. Like it's a satisfying experience, I think, from beginning to end. And I don't know, I think if you appreciate the art form of acting and directing and writing, like there's a lot to appreciate. And I think it's still, deserving of its classic status. I think it's up there.
Also, I have to say, because I have the IMDb page pulled up right now on one of my screens, the trailer that loops, the squirrel shot is in the trailer. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they knew how good that was.
They knew how good it was. I'm sure. I really want to know. Like, I'm sure it was like a running joke on set. Like, can you fucking believe we got that shot? We got to use it in everything.
Yeah, it's like a good metaphor too. It's like teetering on the between in and out, I guess.
Yeah. I'm sure they were like,
make it into something?
This was meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that squirrel. He's like, you know what? I know this is gonna. I was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, that's a fucking famous squirrel. Almost as famous as the one in Baldur's Gate 3 that everybody kicks in the most brutal, bloody way.
I didn't kick him.
Thank you. Thank you for not kicking the squirrel. Yeah, thank you. I see so many people's playthroughs and they just fucking kick the squirrel. Like, the fuck is wrong with you people? I know it's a video game squirrel, but come on.
It's a cute little squirrel.
Even
I
if
actually tried to go back.
Even if you're
and
doing an evil playthrough, right, and you're like murdering a bunch of innocent people and magical creatures, like I get that, but don't do it to the squirrel.
Yeah, I've been thinking about animals in general. Like even in like Red Dead, like I won't hurt the animals. Like it's just, that feels too dark. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't want to go that far.
Anyway, well, this has been One Guy's Seen It. It's been
what's your rating? We got.
Yeah. We got to rate this fucker. Yeah, I didn't need any beers to enjoy it. I mean, I only had one. It's a perfect score from me, and it's not because it's a classic or whatever. It had me hooked. I loved everything about it from start to finish.
Yeah, I'd have to echo that. I think. And this was a movie that beat out Dog Day Afternoon for Best Picture, I think, that year. So we come full circle on that one.
You know, I'd put him in the same category for sure. But I think it deserves the win.
So, who do you prefer performance-wise? Because this will get into like a little thing here, but so do you prefer Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon? I know we have a little more distance to Dog Day. I wouldn't even
compare them really. They're both incredibly compelling, believable actor in their prime performances. Like
yeah.
They're playing completely different types of characters. Like I wouldn't be able to pick one performance over the other. I mean, they're both just doing their fucking thing.
They are like totally different styles and I don't know, methods through which, and the characters are so vastly different too, I think.
Yeah, do they get compared a lot? Do the performances in these two films get compared a lot? I guess they were both nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah, I think because they were in the same year, they get compared every now and then. Because a lot of people think that's Al Pacino's best performance, and they think that's probably Jack Nicholson's best performance as well. So it's pretty, for two people like at the peak of their acting capabilities or like the roles that they've had. You know, it's an interesting. But I think you're right. I think they're, perfect in their own right. But I mean, I think if I was pressed, I do like Al Pacino more, but I think that's more of just my taste in performance and character. But I don't think that detracts anything from Jack Nicholson. I think it's just a preferential thing with the way.
And for the record, Al Pacino's character in that movie is a lot more likable than McMurphy is. It's just they're so different, but both incredible performances.
His plight's a little more understandable, even though he is kind of an asshole also. Moments.
But it's much easier to root for him for various reasons that we should not get into, because we could spend way too long talking about it. This has been One Guy's Seen
episode,
It.
Man.
I am Jeff. I'm Jefferson.
I'm Sumner.
And
I'm Sumner.
And Sumner, you got it.
Every movie's better with at least 0 beers.
At least 0 beers in this particular case. Although it probably would still be good with a beer or two.
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, go crazy.
Crazy.
I think for that party sequence, it wants you to have at least a couple of beers.
Yeah, just don't put your booze in the fucking IV thing. That's probably not a sanitary idea. Anyway, we'll see you next week on One Guy's Seen It.
One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.